Well, with me here in the studio is France 24's Andrew Hilliar, who's been looking a bit into this story from here in Paris. And Andrew, I know this morning you've been able to speak to a humanitarian coordinator in Beirut. Give us a sense of what they've been telling you.
Yeah, Nadia, that's right. Just before we get to that, in the last hour, of course, as you're aware, the Israeli military has issued fresh evacuation orders for southern Beirut. That evacuation order, contrary to what happened yesterday, critically those strikes yesterday, unannounced, no warnings, more than 200 people killed in a single day, hospitals overwhelmed, one woman found alive overnight under the rubble. But what humanitarian actors on the ground, including the one I spoke to today, are telling me is that essentially this has, of course, worsened what was already a very fragile situation. So I spoke to Lebanon's country director for the Danish Refugee Council, and what she told me was that the unannounced nature of the strikes yesterday means it is becoming increasingly difficult for aid workers to safely coordinate their movements and to get aid to people in need. Let's take a listen to what she said.
When you have airstrikes in areas that are not usually targeted, there's no previous warning, then it really means that we have to be incredibly vigilant to ensure the safety of our staff. We continue to see people who are outside on the streets, living often on the beachfront, on the Corniche in Beirut, people sleeping in their cars, people who have set up very makeshift shelters for themselves, particularly those who are living in the southern suburbs and they were going backwards and forwards to their homes during the day and then sleeping outside at night.
That's right. And you heard there, she mentioned people living in southern suburbs, making that journey every day and every night, spending the night outside the suburbs. But of course, as we just heard, fresh evacuation orders for southern Beirut, which will complicate matters further for those people.
Yeah, no doubt these are obviously Israeli evacuation orders. Andrew, what is your sense as to what Israel's objectives are with the ceasefire with Iran currently holding?
Well, Israeli officials have made it clear that they are far from finished in Lebanon. And we saw that overnight. The Israeli military saying it had killed the personal secretary and nephew of the Hezbollah leader, Naim Qassem, the personal secretary and nephew of the Hezbollah leader. Benjamin Netanyahu posting to social media saying that they would continue to strike Hezbollah with force, precision and determination. You can see at the end there of that message he posted, the operations couched really always in defensive terms, striking Hezbollah wherever necessary until we restore full security to the residents of the north. So the idea being to defend the residents of Israel's north. And to do that, what Israeli military officials have been saying is that they want to establish, of course, a buffer zone up to the Litani River. That would put Israel in control of a broad swathe of land, which is roughly 8% of Lebanese territory. One military official telling Reuters the aim is to clear an area stretching up to 10 kilometers beyond the border. And this appears, according to several Israeli military officials, to reflect a new security doctrine, as you can see on your screen there, in Israel, which is the establishment of buffer zones. And Israel now, it would appear, doesn't want to wait for an attack. It preemptively attacks. So that means in the last 2 years, we have seen the establishment of what you could call buffer zones in places like the Gaza Strip. We've seen the occupation of some land in the Golan Heights as well. And in Lebanon there, you can see the evacuation orders that the Israeli military has issued right up to the Litani River. And what, Nadia, some Israeli officials are learning is that over 2.5 years of war, that like Hamas in Gaza, like the clerical leadership in Iran, Lebanon's Hezbollah cannot be uprooted entirely by military action alone. So for some military officials, buffer zones may be the best way to temporarily deal with the threat.
Yeah, and buffer zones is the Israeli phrase. In Lebanon, it's often thought of, isn't it, as an invasion and an occupation.
Indeed.
That's the language that's used there. Does the Lebanese government have any leverage at all in this?
Well, we talked just earlier about this growing humanitarian crisis. A fifth of the country displaced, particularly people in the south where the Israeli army is currently carrying out military operations. This would be too much for most states to bear in normal times. For Lebanon's weak government, this really does add to the burden, as you will see on your screen in a very short moment. You know, Lebanon's government, Nadia, really has tried to show it's serious about reining in Hezbollah. In the last hour, the cabinet has voted also to instruct security forces to restrict weapons to state institutions. Again, a warning to Hezbollah. And this is the government trying to impose its authority. Back in early March, you remember the government declared the militant group, asked the militant group to hand over its weapons. Hezbollah, of course, never voluntarily disbanding itself. And the risk here, Nadia, is long-term destabilization. You know, the Lebanese government has little sway over Hezbollah. This risks stirring up sectarian division. Other communities believe Hezbollah is dragging Lebanon to the brink. And what you're left with is a Lebanese government walking a tightrope.
All right, Andrew Hilliar, thank you very much indeed for your analysis.